Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing good. This week, we're going to be talking about lessons 101 to 104. So let's get started. This week, your child's going to need the lessons manual, the student worksheet book, the math card games manual with the game cards, the geared clock, the colored tiles, the centimeter cubes, one set of the tangrams, and a 4-in-1 ruler. Last week, your child reviewed perimeter. This week, your child is going to learn all about area. Let's get started by turning to lesson 101. Now, if you purchased electronic worksheets in 2016 or before, there is a correction for worksheet 81. So you're going to want to make those changes before starting this lesson. The first paragraph of the warm-up is going to have your child complete the top section of worksheet 81. The second half of the warm-up is going to have your child review different times as you set them on the geared clock, the times that are listed in the lesson manual. Look at the section called square miles. In this section, your child is going to discuss, and you're going to teach your child about square miles. Now, a square mile is a square, but each side measures 1 mile. Look at the section called Worksheet 81, Problems 1 through 7. In this section, your child is going to read through this first paragraph on the worksheet, and then they're going to solve questions, problems 1 through 7 that's listed on the worksheet. Now, the solutions to those questions are shown at the bottom of the first page of the lesson. Once your child completes those questions, discuss their answers with them, and then go over anything that they got wrong. On the top of the second page, you're going to tell your child to do the same thing for the next section on the worksheet. They're going to read through this word problem and then answer the questions at the bottom of their worksheet. Again, you're going to discuss anything that your child missed and any errors that they missed. And the questions or the solutions to those questions are at the bottom of the second page of the lesson. Now, there is a tricky question at the end of their worksheet, and I'm going to walk you through it. Question 10 says, find the area for each county. So here on the worksheet, you're going to see Cottonwood County and McLeod County. And then also on each county, you're going to see these small boxes. Well, each box represents a township, these little squares, and each township measures 6 miles by 6 miles. So to calculate the area for one of these townships, we need to multiply 6 times 6, which is 36. So one of those small squares, or a township, is equal to 36 miles. Now that we know how big one of the squares are, we need to find out how many squares there are. So your child is going to look at Cottonwood County and calculate this, find out how many squares or townships are in this area. And they can do that by doing 4 times 5, which equals 20. So 20 times 36, which is how big each square mile is for one of the small boxes, is 720, and that's shown in the lesson manual. However, 5 times 4 covers this entire space. We are missing 2 different townships here, so we need to remove 36 times 2, or 36 plus 36. So we need to remove 72 square miles from the total 720. So 720 minus 72 equals 648. And all of that is listed in the lesson manual, but it's a little trickier to figure it out that way. So that's why I wanted to walk you through it. Now that your child has calculated how many square miles is in Cottonwood, they are now going to find out how many square miles there are in McLeod. Now, first, the easiest way to do that is to find out how many townships there are in McLeod. And we can do that by multiplying 3 times 4, which is 12, and then add 2 more, which gives us a total of 14. Now remember, Cottonwood had 18 townships and McLeod has 14 townships. So the difference is 4 townships. So we could take 4 times 36, which is one of these square boxes. Remember the square miles for one of the little boxes. So 4 times 36 is 144. So we can calculate that out to be 648 minus 144 equals 504, which is how many square miles there are in McLeod County. Again, if your child solved the problem differently, that's okay, as long as they got the answer correctly. However, because the lesson manual has explained a specific way, I wanted to kind of walk you through that different method of solving. Now, the math card game for this lesson is Find the Two Factors, and we do have a blog for that. It's called 2017 Summer Game Number 20, Find the Two Factors. Well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 102. If your lesson manual was printed in 2019 or before, we do have a correction for this lesson. So you're going to want to make the necessary changes to your lesson prior to teaching it to your child. The top part of the first part of the warm-up is having your child work through the top section of worksheet 82. And the second half of the worksheet is having your child, again, read through different times on the geared clock. Under the section called Reviewing Square Inches, you're going to be doing just that, reviewing what square inches are. Notice something to the right of that section under the explanation section. It says, be sure to read 2in squared as 2 square inches. Avoid saying 2 inches squared, which may have a different interpretation. We want to make sure that we're teaching our kids the correct way of saying these measurements. Now, in the section called Reviewing Square Centimeters, you're again going to be reviewing square centimeters, and you're also going to be discussing how to write square centimeters. Look at the section called Worksheet 82. Here you're going to have your child work through problems 1 through 4 on the worksheet. Now, on this particular worksheet, your child is going to fill in this rectangle using inch squares. They're going to fill it up, and then they're going to answer the questions regarding questions 1 through 4 on that. Now, you're going to talk over any of their questions and then go over anything that they got wrong. For problems 5 through 8, your child's going to do the same thing. They're going to fill in this rectangle, but they're going to use centimeter cubes as opposed to inch cubes or the colored tiles. Again, discuss their answers and go over anything that they got wrong. Now, all of the solutions are included in the lesson manual. The math card game for this lesson is Multiples Solitaire Game, and you did play this game in lesson 87. Well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 103. If your lesson manual was printed in 2019 or before, there is a correction for this lesson as well. So make sure you make those changes before you teach this lesson to your child. Again, the first part of the warm-up is having your child complete the top part of worksheet 83. And the second part of the warm-up is having your child read various times on the geared clock. Now take a look at the section Worksheet 83. You will first have your child read through the instructions on the worksheet and then ask them questions. Now for this particular worksheet, your child is not going to do measurements. They are actually in, if you look at those shapes, if you look at these shapes, each one of these little boxes are considered a unit. So it's not an inch, it's not a centimeter, it's a unit. So they're going to measure this in units. Now, this activity is going to help your child learn how to break down shapes that are not a normal square or rectangle so that they can calculate the area of an irregular shape. Now, for the first problem in the lesson manual, it shows 3 different ways of how you can break down that shape, the shape here. You can break down this shape into different ways. Now, the worksheet is going to have your child solve it 2 different ways. But the lesson manual shows you 3 different ways to solve it. Now, there are other ways of solving this as well. Let me walk you through the 3 ways to solve this problem as shown in the lesson manual. So here we have the shape broken down into 2 pieces. We have 3 times 5, which is 15, and you have 4 times 8, which is 32, totaling a total of 47 units. Another way you can break it down is by cutting it in half this way. So we're making 2 full rectangles. This one is 5 times 7. This one's 3 times 4, again, totaling 47 units. The other way is a little different, but it does the exact same thing. For this shape, you're actually going to pretend it's an entire square. So we're going to have 8 times 7, but then we're going to subtract out this segment, 3 times 3. So you can see this 3 and this 3. And again, it will total 47 units. Now, make sure you discuss with your child how they solve this problem. And then, of course, talk through other ways that they might be able to solve this problem as well, because that's going to help them when they come across future problems. You will then have your child complete the worksheet on their own if they can, and then go over their answers and discuss the ones that they got wrong. Again, discuss any other ways that they might have solved those problems as well. The math card game for this lesson is again multiples solitaire game that you played for lesson 102. Go ahead and turn to lesson 104. For this lesson, your child is going to need one set of tangrams, and some of those pieces look like this. Let me show you one more, the small triangle. Now for the warm-up section, your child is going to again complete the top part of worksheet 84, and the second half is going to have your child read off different times as you show on the geared clock. Look at the section called Tangram Pieces. This lesson and this worksheet is going to use the Tangram Pieces to use as units for measurement. So like the previous worksheet that we did where one of those squares was the unit, for this lesson and worksheet, the Tangram pieces are going to be the measuring units. We're not going to be measuring in inches or centimeters. In fact, everything is going to be based off the small triangle. This small triangle is going to be 1 unit. The square is going to be 2 units. The medium-sized triangle is going to be 2 units because two of the smaller triangles can fit into it. The parallelogram, 2 units because again 2 of the small triangles can fit inside, and then the large triangle actually is 4 units because 4 of those little triangles can fit inside. Let me show you how the small triangle fits into each of those shapes. So here we can see that the square has 2 units if you put the small triangle on each side. The parallelogram is also 2 units by putting the small triangle on the top and then on the bottom. The medium-sized triangle has 2 side-by-side small triangles. And here you can see 4 small triangles fitting into the larger triangle. Now your child will include these units on their worksheet right under the warm-up section. So you can see it right here. Here are the pieces, and here is where you're going to mark how large each unit, or how many units each of those shapes have. Then you're going to use those shapes and units to complete the worksheet. Now, the first step your child is going to need to do is find the pieces that can be put together to build the rectangle as shown in the on the worksheet. Now, the rectangles on the worksheet are not to scale, so you're not going to squish those Tangram pieces into those rectangles, but it's going to give you a guide. So your child will use that information given, build the rectangle on the side, and then document where the lines are for the tangrams on the worksheet. So let me just show you how it works. So for worksheet 84, I'm going to use tangrams to build a rectangle. Now these rectangles are representation of the rectangles that I'm going to build. And notice it gives us the first tangram to start with. So our first, the small triangle is going to be the top left side of this particular rectangle, as well as these as well. So I'm going to put up here just some, oops, let me pull it down a little bit so you can see some of the tangram shapes that might work for this size of a rectangle. So I immediately see, because I've got these right next to each other, that these two will come together. And that would leave me with this spot here. So I've just built a rectangle using 3 tangrams. So now I'm going to document that on this worksheet. So I'm just going to draw the lines where they were, roughly. And then I'm going to calculate the units of area. So we know this is 1, and this is 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives me a total of 4 units. All right, well, let's try another one. Since we used this shape the last time, I'm going to use the square this time. And I can see I'm going to need the other small triangle. So I'm going to fill that in there. Oh, I've got myself crooked here. There we go. All right, so now that I know how to make another rectangle, I'm going to document that over here. And I'm going to calculate the area in units. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 units. And continue through the rest of the worksheet until they're done. A lot of this is trial and error though, so find shapes that might fit into that particular rectangle or shape and just play from there. The solutions to this worksheet are included in the lesson manual. Now, your child may struggle with some of these. If they need some hints, maybe put a couple pieces out there of the tangram that fits in a particular rectangle to kind of give them some hints in this starter. Make sure you discuss their answers, though. Make sure they're trying on their own before you give them any hints. Now, the lesson manual is having your child play, asking your child to play a game of their choice. However, if your child is still working on their multiples, make sure that they're playing a multiplication math card game. Well, that's it for the week. If you have any questions or concerns about a lesson, or if your child is struggling with something, give us a call or email us. We're here to help. I look forward to seeing you next week as we work through lessons 105 through 108. Have a great week, everybody.